Okay, welcome to Black Man Speak. I'm your co-host J.R. Stewart.
And I am your co-host, Tommy Duncan. Welcome, America. It is Wednesday, make that January 19th, 2022.
That's right.
Welcome to Black Men Speak. If it is Wednesday and 8 o'clock p.m. Central, it is
It,
Black Men
it
Speak.
is Black Man Speak, people. And once again, Tommy has hit a grand slam home run by getting a couple of really talented, smart brothers to come talk with us tonight. And like I've said before, this is a show that brings you solutions and people in the know. This is not for entertainment, and like Keisha says, it's not for play. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and please spread the word and hit that like button so we can build our algorithm numbers. And with that being said, go ahead, Tom, and kick it off.
All right, folks. So we're going to talk about one of the things that we had discussed at the very end of last year, and that is closing the wealth gap.
Okay, it looks like Tom's connection may have failed. I think he's in a hotel. So the point of tonight's topic is building the wealth gap through real
Okay,
estate.
it looks like I fell off there, but I am back, folks.
Yes.
Sorry about that. So we are going to discuss closing the wealth gap in Black America through real estate. One of the things that we are constantly talking about is building our own economy and strategies for doing that. And as we've talked about net worth in the average household in America compared to Black households in America, one of the significant components of that is real estate. And so, as
Yes.
we promised, we are going to bring you the experts that are going to get the answers for you today. So there are a couple of things that we would ask before we get started. Number one, you have that chat session. So do please chat in if you feel comfortable in order to ask questions and to inject some thoughts into our conversation. And number two, there is a phone number that you can call in, ask our experts anything that you would like. So please do call in, chat in so we can get your questions answered. So we have Brother Tirrell Richard and Brother Dwight Johnson, who are going to talk to us a little bit about what they do. But before we get the show started and answering your questions, we're going to have each of them to introduce themselves individually, and we're going to get this party started. So, Mr. Johnson, tell us about yourself.
So, first and foremost, thank you guys for this platform. We always love to speak to people about what we do. So, I am a realtor out of the Houston, Texas market, affectionately referred to myself as a real estate wealth advisor. I help people all over Texas and all over the country buy, sell, and invest in real estate. I am primarily a residential real estate agent. However, I know folks in all aspects of real estate. So if they need something outside of my space or outside of my region, I have a pretty good database of expert realtors around the country.
Okay, Tommy's sound has dropped off. How about you,
Oh,
Terrell?
Yes, my name is Tirrell Richard. I have actually been in mortgage lending for about 24 years. That does tell my age a little bit. Straight out of college doing that. And much like Dwight, I actually concentrated in the residential market. But just like Dwight, I also can help you out in other aspects like commercial. What I do consider myself somebody to help all my clients not only select homes, but select the right home. Not to overbuy, not to underbuy, but to make a decision on something that's going to impact your life for the rest of your life. Real estate is the most impactful thing you can do. I definitely believe in that.
Okay.
Outstanding, gentlemen. And these are actually two gentlemen that I have known for a very long time in different angles. Both of these brothers are very sharp. So,
Very
folks,
sharp.
we ask that you buckle up your seatbelts, ask a lot of questions because we're going to get down to it. So, want to get your opinion on something. I mean, we started this conversation, some weeks ago because we talked about closing the wealth gap in America. Probably the most significant part of that is in real estate, which means the home. 40%, depending on what study you look at, Pew or the National Urban League, see about maybe 40% of Black Americans own their own home versus rent, and that's about 70-something% in mainstream and or white America. We do understand that there have been some historical reference points. I mean, if you look at somewhere between, 1865 and the middle part of the 20th century, we know there were a lot of things that were systematically, keeping a lot of our grandparents and great-grandparents from buying homes. But, if we look at the last 50 years, those numbers seem to have kind of stayed the same. Tell us about your thoughts on that and what you guys have seen in your experience in the market in terms of home ownership and wealth and why we still continue to have this significant gap when it comes to real estate acquisition and wealth in America. Tirrell.
Okay, perfect. So what I've seen, just being a lender, is that, with our people, and definitely a Black American that love our people, our definition of success is different than most people's definition of success. What I've noticed in our demographic is that we tend to want to show our wealth instead of let our wealth show us. And
what does that look like? Yeah.
What that really means is that we would rather have, as a people, not as everybody, but as the majority, we would rather have the gold chains, the expensive car while we're living in an apartment, as opposed to build our wealth a little bit slowly, own a home that is going to sustain us forever. And we would rather be a little bit more showy than a little bit people that want to save a little bit more. And I think saving is sexy. I think saving is the way that we all should go. I believe that we should be more concerned with our 70s than our 30s. And in order to do that, one of the biggest aspects of that is, buying real estate. Real estate, for what we know, real estate actually appreciates. Most other things that they like to buy, the Jordans, the gold chains, which are personal chains, not gold, they depreciate. And what we need to learn to focus on is not the here and now, but the future. To be, to make sure we're investing in our futures, making sure that we have money to not only sustain ourselves, to be able to help our kids in college, to help our kids go to college, to help our kids have their first wedding and different things like that. And the biggest way to do that is to have money that works for you. And the last part I'll say on that is that the predominant, different races out there, they grow their money and they let their money work for them while they're asleep. We make our money while we're working 8 hours, and there's 16 hours in a day. Make your money then too.
Well, Terrell, when you spend $400 or $500 for a $10 pair of tennis, there's no way that item can appreciate enough for you to break even, especially once you wear it. So that becomes a fool's errand from the very beginning. As soon as you buy those Air Jordans or Nikes or this shoe or that shoe with someone's name on it, you're already upside down. You can never catch up.
What do you say, Dwight? What have you seen out there? Perspective.
Yeah, I think we have the same perspective for the most part, but I think I would sum it up a little differently or overlay that is, I think a lot of it is a mindset. So he didn't say that, but what he demonstrated was a mindset, because someone's viewpoint of personal articles or personal things are glamorous or sexy, whereas someone else's may not. So I think the biggest part of that would just be a mindset. So either we never had it, never been taught it, doesn't know where to get it, and mindset affects everything. So if you think it's better to have a car and live in an apartment, then you have a limiting belief there, and that's always going to be a problem.
Let me ask you this. A lot of our parents, grandparents, and I'm kind of talking, our generation. So maybe I'm speaking about boomers. They had a tendency, at least in certain areas, in the South in particular, to, chase the American dream. It kind of goes along with the social contract, chasing the American dream. I remember having this conversation with my father several times coming out of college. He went to a historically Black college, Bishop College, defunct but never dead. And, he was talking about struggling and trying to figure out, how he was going to, get a home and build, something for his family and things of that nature. And that seemed to be a similar narrative to a lot of the boomers, to a certain degree, the Gen Xers, but a lot of what I hear more recently when we look at millennials and Gen Z, is that they're having a tendency, possibly, if what I'm reading is right, to not being as much of a focused on home ownership or even having their own cars for that matter. I don't know if you guys do very much business with or connect with a lot of the younger generations. Is that what you guys are seeing? Or are you seeing something different? Dwight?
Yeah, that is true. The attention span and the focus for the Gen X, Gen Z, the younger generation is, they don't stay on a job very long. They don't do anything. They don't focus on anything for any length of time. It's like if it requires any type of sacrifice or any type of effort or any type of will, they're just on to the next one. So it's just I do think a part of that is just generational for sure.
What about you, Tirrell? What have you been seeing out there in terms of the younger generations and their propensity to acquire real estate or just their own homes, even getting married or whatever?
So I'm actually going to speak a little differently on that. What I've learned is that what we learned from our parents is our parents saw that home ownership was the way because that's what they couldn't have.
Right.
When it got passed on to us and through education and the different things we had the ability to do it. So it's something that we don't feel is not 100% we can't have. So what I've learned from my parents that was the most important to them because they couldn't own a home back then. Now, what we learned from our parents, which is a false thing that we learned, is they had no fun. They were always driven to buy houses, to provide for their kids. And probably us and the Gen X's and the difference, what they saw was, I want to enjoy my life.
Right.
I want to be able to go on vacation. I want to be able to do this. But we don't see the other half of that. We're going to go on vacation. We're going to enjoy ourselves for the rest of our lives. No, we're not. We're going to enjoy ourselves until that money runs out. So, what we learned from our parents were, hey, we don't want to struggle forever. But what they taught us that we should have learned was that they are making their own money. They're going to pay their house off one day. They're not going to have rent. We didn't see that part.
Right.
We saw the struggle. And you got to remember, their income was way less than ours.
True.
Yep.
So we can have a house and we can also have some vacation. We can actually do a little bit more than they could do. But I think what we learned was that they had no fun. But they had no fun because they didn't have as much fun because they couldn't. Their income was not a little bit, a lot different than ours. We can actually own our homes. We can invest in homes is the most important thing, but we also can have fun, enjoy our families, and we also can get ready for retirement.
Very, very
Gotcha.
good point. Very good point. Actually, most of us, if you take from today going back 10 years, have probably earned more money than our parents did in their lifetime combined. So, you make a very good point there.
So getting to the point in the conversation, you mentioned habits, lifestyles. What do you see as the biggest hurdles for Black America to be more home owners, buy land, or participate in the true wealth acquisition growth in America? I mean, most of us, unless our heads have been in the sand, the real estate market, not just in Texas, but throughout the country, is just going through the roof. And there are some who might say, you know what, is it too late, for me to get into this game? So what are the biggest hurdles that you guys are seeing for Black America to participate in the real estate or the acquisition of real estate? And, where do you go from here? How do you start? Tirrell.
Okay, perfect. Actually, Dwight said it perfectly. It's mindset. Mindset is the biggest thing. I will say this, what I've seen in real estate is that we have to get in on real estate. One of my favorite MCs of all time is Jay-Z, and he said this on the last album, that he buys things that appreciate, and he was talking about art then. But homes appreciate. I actually shared with you, Tommy, and you, Jimmy, a housing market that I saw where approximately 10 years ago, where a person bought a house for $200,000,
Yes.
and that house today is worth $550,000. And when you tell me that you missed out on that just so you could have something differently, that tells me your mindset is not where it needs to be. So I think our mindset needs to be a little bit stronger in terms of being more patient. But also when you couple that with the fact that, and I'm going to hurt little feelings here, we don't take care of our credit. Credit is everything. I've had several friends that have had poor credit. And if you have credit where you're not paying things and you feel that you come over, that you got over, you have not. Because I'm going to give somebody a 3% interest rate. And when it comes time to you, when we look at your credit, we're going to say that you haven't taken care of things. You're going to get a 6% interest rate, or you're going to get a 5%. And when you look at that over time, you're going to pay way more money for buying that property than you would have paid if you'd have paid everything on time. So you have to make better decisions on what you buy. Sometimes you need to wait. I kind of remember back in the day, and this is something that has gone away, something called layaway. When our parents were smart enough to buy something and wait till they got the money to pay for it. We don't do that anymore. We want to pay for it now, and then all of a sudden we can't pay for our credit cards, and we blame it on something else. Make smarter decisions what you're going to buy. Save your money, because as we talked about, if you want to buy a house, you might only have to put 5% down, but if you want to invest in a home that is going to substantiate you and your lifestyle and your family for the rest of your life, you got to put 20% down. 20% down on a $200,000 house, $40,000. You got to save that money, and you do it little by little, but you do it by making better decisions on a daily basis in order to be able to afford yourself to have a great 50s, 60s, and 70s. The 50s is the new 30s. You got way longer to live right now.
Man, it's still with the same old 50.
You 30. Let's go.
But wait a minute now, Dwight. So he just said something that's kind of provocative that some of our listeners might be saying. $40,000. I don't even have $4,000 in the bank. Where am I going to get $40,000 in buying it? So, because you deal with a lot of folks on the front end, Dwight, and I know you have these conversations on a daily basis with folks like that. Tell us what you would tell that person. $40,000.
Come back to me too, Tommy. I'm gonna tell you something when he finishes.
Okay, good deal.
Well, Tirrell's definitely come prepared to deliver tonight, and but I think my theme is going to be mindset. I probably answer every question with mindset. That's the biggest part. But I would supplement that with education. So we need to educate people about how different ways to save a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit there. And so for so many people, that does seem like insurmountable or such a big astronomical number. But maybe if I can educate you to, round up your spending by, all the change up on a credit card app or debit card app, something like that. And you save, you look up and you save $400 or $500 extra a month by doing that. So I think a big part of it would be education, to show people other examples where it's been done. And the more people you see that can do it, the more you can relate more, especially more people that look like you and, go to schools that you go to and live in neighborhoods you go, where you can see some examples of, if that person did it, I know they work, this company, and I know they make about this much, and they were able to save it. So I think we need more examples.
Can you give us an example? Can you give us an example, for instance, of someone that you may have worked with who didn't think that they could do it, but just making a few decisions here and there or doing things a little bit differently made a difference? Now, maybe it didn't happen in a couple of months. Maybe it took a couple of years, but can you give a few examples of someone who really was struggling and who was able to come out on the end, and now they're moving down the road?
Yeah, I can think of an example. I can think of a young couple that I work with, very young couple. Neither of them went to college. They lived in a mobile home park down not too far from me, and I come in contact with them through the barbershop. And they had two young boys at the time, and this mobile home park just had gravel. Like there's no grass anywhere in the park. And the guy was like, "Man, I just want a yard for my kids." And we started talking like, "Hey, say this." And they really rarely do I get to know the money piece in the real estate equation, because it's not important. That's Tirrell's job. I hand them over to him, someone like him, and I trust them, a trusted partner. And when they tell me they can buy, they hand them back to me. But in this particular case, since they live I kind of passed their mobile home park to get to my home. One night I had to make a copy of some documents that the lender needed, that my lender needed. And I saw this couple was only making combined maybe about $40,000, but they knew they wanted something better for their kids, and they just started to save a little bit of money here, and then maybe instead of getting a haircut every Friday, maybe it was every other Friday, and she changed some habits on her work schedule to commute some things and just save a little bit of money. And this is a couple I like to tell this story because this was way before COVID, and the interest rates requirements were a lot lower. I think we could get people in houses in the high 500s at that point. But this is an example of two folks, and this is not about education or not, but just for this real life example. Neither one of them had anything higher than a high school degree. Combined, they were making less than $40,000, but they knew on their own that they wanted to do something different, and they made a decision. And I think one of the things a lot of people, back to the mindset, will police themselves and say, I could never own it. But this young man knew he wanted a home, and 3 years in now, they're thinking about getting out of that home and getting something else.
Right,
so it's just that one mindset change drastically did it. And you need somebody that you could partner with that can believe in that for you as well. So
that is awesome. All right,
that's legally
okay.
I mean, $40,000 for two people, you're legally poor at that point.
It was $42,000 they made. And I only knew that because I had to come home and scan it to get it to the lender. He didn't really have an easy way, couldn't take it to his job.
But it just goes to show what you can do if you make the sacrifice and put your mind to it, like Tirrell said. It's a mindset.
Right. Yeah. We're going to go to Tirrell next.
So I'm going to actually change what y'all think. Before I tell you $40,000 is not a lot of money, I'm going to say that, first of all, myself and Dwight probably not qualified more than, Tommy and Jimmy, because y'all have done it. I've worked with you, Tommy. You are a real estate mogul. You do your thing, and I appreciate that, and that's great. But let me tell you this. So in this world, we have options to do different things, and paying $40,000 is a lot of money. Out of your pocket, it is. But if you have the right person working with you, like Dwight or myself, the first thing I tell you is, when you buy your first home, you don't buy a dream home.
No.
You buy a home that is affordable, and you get somebody like Dwight that's going to show you what that house can rent out for in 5 years. So you buy your first home, and you don't buy, the FHA loan, you put 3.5% down. A USDA loan, you can put down 0. So is a VA, and a conventional is 5%. But whichever one you qualify for, that's the one you buy that you can afford. But with the mindset, as Dwight has kept coming to, and he's just very articulate to come to that and very intelligent to do that, you buy that home with the perception that I'm going to buy this home. It ain't going to be my forever home. It's going to be my home that I'm going to invest later. So I bought this for 5%. And guess what? You work with me, depending on where you're buying, depending on your income and different other factors, there is money out there for you. There's government loans. There's different things. I help people out get their whole down payment where they pay no money all the time. But you stay in that home for a certain amount of time, and all of a sudden, your income has grown. Your family has grown. Your wife's income has grown. Now you're ready to buy another home. You don't sell that home. You make that home an investment property because you did the right things by talking to Dwight and finding out this house that you're going to pay $1,200 for. And 7 years from now, you're going to be able to rent it out for $1,900. So now you're getting $700 on top of, after you pay your bill. So now you're saying, oh, okay, now, I have to put this money up to buy a house. I'm going to put up not 20%. I'm going to put up 5%, 3.5%, or 0%, depending on what type of loan I do. And that's going to be my next house that I'm going to do my step up because I'm making a little bit more money. And now my first home, my investment property, that's the home that I'm going to start making my money on. And what you have to do, again, back to you, Dwight, you stole my thunder, but I love that. Now I'm going to have a mindset. I'm not going to take that $700 that I'm making more a month, and I'm not going to pay that $700 towards getting a better car or something or anything like that. I'm going to put that money back for savings for me and my wife when we get a little bit older. I'm going to make sure I pay the bill. Eventually going to pay that house off, But every time you're making more and more and more money, now you have an investment property that is almost paid off. And now you say, hey, I've saved a lot of money. My income has grown. I can get another one. So what you do, you use that first house, not as a dream home, as a home that me and my wife can love. We can grow together. We can be a great unit together, but we can use that as a stepping stone to own more and more real estate and take over this game.
Now, you know, Tirrell, in order to pull that strategy off, you've got to be one hell of a man, because the women out there, they tend to like what they like, and they want it now sometimes.
The dream home.
Baby, I don't understand why we can't get the big house right now, because we can afford it. We both make enough money to get that house. You're trying to put me in this house over here. I mean, yes, you gotta come with your man game to pull that strategy off. So
everybody get mad at me right now. Make better decisions who you're going to be with. You know, you should have that talk with your spouse before you buy one home about what y'all doing together. Yeah. I do listen to the Bible, and the Bible says don't be unequally yoked. I don't believe that just means don't marry somebody that is an unbeliever. I think that means don't marry somebody when you're a sailor that's a spender. You know, I don't believe that there's a billion people out there in this world that I can only fall in love with one. I'm gonna fall in love with the person that has my same likes and my same goals in mind. We're gonna grow together. We're gonna make that happen. So this went from a real estate to deciding who you want to be with. I apologize for that.
Gotcha.
Don't decide to be the wrong person. And blame
this is real talk, Dwight.
I want to bring it back quick. One thing that he did not say, he said it earlier, but he didn't mention it there. That house that you bought that was not a forever home, it also appreciated in that 3 to 5 years now. So real story. I'm using this couple. I won't name them, but they bought that house. It was $168,000, and about 3.5 years ago, it's worth about $240,000.
Wow, right, they're doing well. But also, don't be afraid to buy a distressed property.
Well, it wasn't a distressed property, but just
because you can fix that up and increase that equity really fast if you're willing to put a little sweat equity into it. Yeah. So don't let distressed property scare you away. And my strategy in life is that I'm a one income person. I believe even if you have two incomes, that my wife and I are going to live off. We're going to live in a house. We're going to have the lifestyle that I can afford myself. Even if we have two incomes, I don't play that live up to your means. You live on one paycheck, and you aggressively save and pay down debt if you have a second paycheck. And I live by that, and I try to advocate for others, young brothers, to do the same. Just because you have X number of dollars each month, don't create a lifestyle that takes up all your monthly money trying to maintain it, because as soon as somebody loses a job, correct. The whole house of cards falls in on you. So
let me ask you this.
Jimmy, can I piggyback on that, Jimmy?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I'm going to tell you, Jimmy, you're 100% correct, but you're not correct for who I am. I'm looking at you. You can fix up houses. I can't. So buying distressed homes is different.
Well, I can hire somebody to fix them up now.
Yeah. But you gotta know. Too many of us try to get into a distressed home that we think we're gonna make all this money in, and you don't know all the issues. Right. Somebody that like yourself that understands that can make a better decision than I can. I can't make that decision. I'm gonna mess up. I'm gonna think I got a distressed home that I'm gonna pay way too much money for. And that's where I go back with. That I believe that you have to do what's right for you. There's not just one way to win this game. There's a lot of ways to win this game. Dwight and myself, we're just a couple people can tell you a couple strategies. I promise you, I know so many other people smarter than I am, or always smarter than me, and know different things. What you have to do as the person wanting to buy the house, you have to be able to articulate to myself and to Dwight what is best for you, because we cannot answer questions without knowing what's in your mind and what your capabilities are.
No, that is an outstanding point that you just made. So we're halfway through. These conversations go so fast. We are already halfway through our show tonight. For those of you who are out there who are listening, feel free to join us via chat if you have any questions or any thoughts. Also, there, I believe Jimmy is there's a phone number that should be showing up Exactly. So feel free to call in if you'd like to ask Tirrell or Dwight any questions they may have on the lending side or on the agency side of the equation. And we will continue to go ahead and move forward with our
Because Tom, I
conversation.
promise you that you're not going to find brothers like this on the Breakfast Club. Provide
I got you. Now, on to some recent news, and I mean, we have been living in unprecedented times for I think at least a decade, where interest rates have been extremely low. Low, but that is about to change, right? So, okay, Tirrell, Dwight, tell us about what's getting ready to happen, because these interest rates are about to change. I mean, we have been in unprecedented territory for a long time, and what impact is that going to have?
So I will answer that, because I actually had a very nice conference call on that today. And I have a different mindset than most people. I have been doing real estate, since 1990. And I've gone through a lot of things. And I have been told that we believe, and before I say that, understand that people, when they say interest rates are going up, they don't do it off of, I'm guessing. They look at historical facts on what's going on in the world when it comes to inflation, deflation, different things, and they make very educated guess on what's going to happen. I've been told that they believe that rates will be about 4.5 before the end of this year. So
where are rates right now, by the way, when you say 4.5 by the end of this year?
Well, a month ago, rates were at 3. Right now, rates are about 3.5 to 3.625. So they've already gone up significantly. And when I say 3.625, 3.5, I'm saying with you paying 0 points. You can buy down your rate as well, too. It's not always advantageous. Let somebody like myself discuss that with you, and you make that decision. I never make a decision what you buy down. I tell you what it costs. I let you make that decision, and I give you my belief on if it's good or not for you. So we do believe rates are going up. In my business, that's not a bad thing. I don't mind if rates go up or go down. I just want them to change. When rates go up, that means that we are making more money. Mm-hmm. That means we can afford more. That means there's less unemployment. That means that the economy is getting better. When they're down, that's when we have more issues and you can afford less. So when rates go up, it's not a bad thing, except if your income and different things didn't go up with that. So yes, rates are going to go up, which means that
money's going to cost more, right?
Yeah, but it just means refinances go down. People still going to buy houses,
right?
Dwight ain't going to be affected by this. The houses, people going to still buy houses because, like you said, your wife, she still wants that other house. Now, instead of getting a $700,000 house or a $300,000 house, she may get a $250,000 or a $650,000, based on what you can afford. But people are still going to buy. But refinances are going to go down. I believe that they say 80% of refinances. We're going to lose 80% of our refinance we had last year. But that does not mean the market is going to be bad. That just means that in my sector, more lenders will drop out of the game. I'll have less competition. My numbers will not shrink. I will just get a bigger piece of the pie and still close the same amount of loans. But as a lender, I still have to be a social worker and have to be a psychologist and try to talk to my clients before they get even with Dwight or before they get with Dwight, and explain to them what their budget is. So that, because when Dwight shows them a $600,000 house, it's hard for me to talk them out to a $450,000 because there's different things in a $450,000 than a $650,000. But, I don't really find that to be distressing. That to be actually a great mark that the economy is going up, that we're all going to make a little bit more money. We can afford a little bit more, so we can afford to pay a little bit higher rates.
What about you, Dwight? What do you say?
Well, I always tell folks I don't have a crystal ball. I hear the same reports that we all read. And the lesson for me is always be preparing now to do things as soon as you can. What we can predict is right now. Tirrell can lock you in right now if it's 3.5 or whatever. This is what we know today. So my advice is just, always be preparing yourself for sooner rather than later, because this is the one thing that we can not even predict. This is what we know. I can I can tell him I got a guy that's got a 680 credit score and his income is X and his debt is Y, and he can tell me exactly what that person can do. So that's kind of that's my thing on it. We do obviously the rates are going to go up. I think that is going to happen, and but I'm not sure how much impact it will have right now. It'll just come back to more of a normal market versus the way it's been, crazy seller's market for the last year or better. It'll just level off. And I'm not in the mortgage space, but I think if you went back even 4 or 5 years ago, if it goes to 4.5, that's still on the historically low side of interest rates. I think I remember I bought my first house, 30 years ago or so, and it was maybe 8 or 9, and at that point that was
11.
That was low.
Yeah, 30 years ago.
So now we're talking about perspective. That's a great perspective from Tirrell on. Maybe my competition gets a little less because I'm definitely not going anywhere either.
Yeah.
But that's perspective. So 4.5% is half of what it was 30 years ago. So it still shouldn't stop anyone from the pursuit of homeownership.
Especially if they're making more money.
Right.
They'll be making more money.
So getting back to the original.
Hey, Tom,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
Let me interject from another side here. So one of the things I'm starting to notice, for instance, is our government, through a lot of those HUD programs, are incentivizing builders to build more multifamily dwellings. There's very little grant money for developers to build single-family homes anymore, and the Wall Street money is actually even pouring into rentals. You have subdivisions where investors are coming in and buying up the entire subdivision, 200-300 homes, not to sell, but to turn around and rent them out. We have one here in McKinney. I don't know, it's about maybe 80 homes that they're going to build, every one of them to rental. And because they look at it now as that I can get this for 0.25% interest, and the rental rate, whatever I have to pay for a 0.25 interest rate on a $1,800 mortgage, rental rate, my return on that is going to be great. And it's going to be for the next 30, 40, 50, 100 years versus a one-time sale. So I would advise people, if you can get into real estate and start buying a home, you start buying it. Because right now, I think about 20% of the construction is multifamily, and that's going to increase. That was 10% just 20 years ago. And as more money flows into the rental versus single-family dwelling, the people who own homes, their property is going to appreciate drastically because the supply is going to run out. There's already a bit of a shortage. So if you can buy a home, talk to these two brothers right now to start working towards that before you find yourself where it's a seller's market and you have to pay an outrageous price to get into a home.
So let me ask you this. For our listeners out there who are saying, you know what, I kind of like what they're saying about this whole real estate thing. I'm renting right now, and it doesn't matter who it is, but, let's say it's someone who's in their 40s, 50s, and they're an empty nester, or, someone who's been taking care of kids, and then they've been taking care of grandchildren, and now they're in a position where, they actually want to see something that will potentially outlast them, or they can maybe transfer to their children, after they've gone home to glory. What would you be telling them right now? We're not talking about the young 20s couple, but someone who's, let's say, now is the empty nester, and they've never really thought heavy about it because they were just spending most of their money taking care of children and or grandchildren. How do they get started? What do they need to do?
Go ahead, Dwight.
Okay, I would just say number one, and depending on who you talk to, partner with a real estate professional or a mortgage expert. It's kind of 1 and 1A. If someone goes to my mortgage person first, she's going to handle them and send them to me. If they come to me first, I'm going to do a very little bit of a mindset thing, and I'm going to send them to them. So you need to partner with someone in that space now that does it at a high level. That's probably action item number one, because then they can hear your story, hear your thought process, hear your goals, and help you to formalize a strategy to reach those goals. So partner with a top flight realtor like myself, or a top flight mortgage lender like Tirrell.
Are there specific questions that they need to ask themselves so that when they come to you or they come to a Tirrell, they'll understand what they're doing and why. There's specific questions they should be asking or answering before they even get to that point.
Not necessarily, in my opinion. It's just, again, it's making a decision that I want to do something different, and who's the first expert that I need to put on the team. And if you ask those questions, we're going to be able to move through that process much quicker. But sometimes that self-diagnosis is the worst thing. You're asking yourself the wrong question. You're giving yourself the wrong answer. Partner with the experts sooner rather than later is my professional opinion.
All right, Tirrell, what do you think?
Okay, I'm going to actually kind of go a different route just to give people an understanding of why it's so extremely important to be a homeowner.
Thank you.
For instance, I have 2 children, and I think that for me, and this, please remember this for me, everybody's different. Your thoughts are different, and I want you to do what's best for you and your family. I believe the days are gone of where I buy this home, I live in this home, and when I die, I give it to my 2 kids. In my profession, I've seen so many fights over that, which I think is ridiculous, and I think you shouldn't do it. But I like something called a reverse mortgage, and I've talked to my wife about this. You put your kids through school, you help them when they, get married, you help them through life. Your house is yours. You own that. Literally, let's say, and I'm going to go over a different thing. Let's say you bought a house for $300,000. You bought a house for $300,000. 30 years later, let's call you 60. Let's say you bought it when you're 30. That $300,000 house, let's call it worth $600,000, and that's very modest. So your house is doubled. You can do at that point what's called not at that point. When both of you have turned 62 and a half, you can do what's called a reverse mortgage. You can literally take a house you paid off that's worth $600,000, get 60% of the value of that house paid to you in cash. You pay no bills, and all you pay is tax and insurance until both of you pass away. So now you just build equity for yourself. You've helped for your savings when you're ready to retire. You now have a $600,000 house. You get 60% of that, what is that? $360,000 they put into your pocket, and all you pay is tax and insurance. And at the end of both of your durations, your kids have the right to either buy that house back or it goes back to the bank or whatever. You've lived your life. You put your kids through what they want to do. You have not struggled through your glory years. You and your wife have gone on the vacations, the different things you wanted to do. You had the Social Security. You use that money that you put all throughout your life to help you have a great golden years.
Yes, there you go.
No reason to leave that to your kids. You've done what you're supposed to do. Your kids would rather see you enjoy that money and not have to pay anything but tax and insurance, which is very minimal for the rest of your life. And if you live another 20 years, which is 80, and not just you, your spouse is there. It's called life estate. They have life estate on that. Until both of you pass away, they cannot collect a payment on there. That is building yourself up for a great retirement and not worrying about struggling and doing some of the things that some of our parents have to do in order to make ends meet. I think that's a great way to utilize your house.
Well, plus with the death tax, it could be as high as 50%, depending on how much you're passing on. You've accumulated all this wealth, and when you die, you pay taxes on everything you accumulated, and then the government sucks in and take half of it off the top when you die. So you need to come up with a strategy, either reverse mortgage or some kind of living trust, to protect what you've earned and build up. You don't want to work and just give it away. Yes.
Yeah. Yes,
so
sir.
That's a good strategy. The reverse mortgage is a good strategy.
Thank you.
And to your point, I know everything isn't for everybody, and reverse strategy is one way to handle it. But there's nothing wrong with passing it on to your children or your child if it comes right down to that.
Tom, if the government doesn't suck it all up on the death tax,
exactly.
So that's what you got to keep in mind. You can accumulate.
Simplify that for people who don't know what.
Okay, let's say if it's Dwight. Let's say Dwight's accumulated over the course of his life $2 or $3 million in property. He's just been accumulating little property along the way, buying up property. And when he's 70, 80 years old, he finally dies. He has a couple of kids. They evaluate his estate to be $2.5 million. Well, anything over $1 million, the government wants half of it. So now Dwight kids have to liquidate their inheritance and to give the government at least 1.25 of that, and while they fight over the rest, and by the time they finish fighting, paying lawyers, it may not be very much left of Dwight's life work to pass on to his kids. So that's a trap that Tirrell is talking about. It'd be better for Dwight to go ahead and cash his out before he died and enjoy it. And you can set aside some of the money you get from the reverse mortgage for your kids if you want to. But, having a huge estate these days without some protection, just means you're ready to give it to the government.
And maybe protection
100%.
is another conversation for another
100%.
time because I know the wealthy folks got ways to get around this stuff.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I didn't want to get into that. That's a little bit
that's
above
another
our pay
conversation. That's another conversation for another show.
But the reverse mortgage is a simple one, though. I mean, anybody can do that.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Very simple one.
Yeah, my grandmother did that. She lived in Chicago. She did a reverse mortgage.
Awesome.
All right, we are about 15 minutes until, so let's kind of talk about action items. Culling from our conversation, I don't believe that we have anybody right now who has any questions or thoughts in the chat session, ladies and gentlemen. So again, this is a great time if you have any specific questions for Dwight or Tirrell. This is a great time to either include it in the chat or to give us a call so that they can ask any questions. But what I'd like to do now is kind of talk about action items. The topic of tonight's show is closing the wealth gap in Black America through real estate. It would be great to have a magic wand where we can say, we were at 40%. Now we're at 70%. Our net worth was, let's just say that our net worth is about 10% of mainstream America, but that's not the case. Let's kind of talk about what we could and should be doing, whether you're young and early in life or whether you're older in life. What are the things that we can start doing now if we haven't been doing them already to close that wealth gap? And let's have that in a real estate focused conversation. Or if there are some other things you'd like to introduce outside of real estate, that's as well. Because Jimmy and I are about closing the wealth gap and building an economy. Because as Malcolm always said, when you have economic power, you have social power. Mm-hmm. We'll start with you, Dwight.
Well, one of the things is to make a decision to that home ownership is important and create an action plan to do so.
And why is it important? What role does real estate really play? I mean, young people might be saying, okay, if we're going through all this and they're going to be doing all this death tax stuff, what's the whole point? What role does real estate really play?
At least in the short term, if we're not talking about transferring of real estate or transferring of wealth, some of the things that I made notes that real estate, and we've touched on it, but obviously real estate creates cash flow. So anything that, any money set aside above a mortgage is could be passive income in a real estate space. There are hundreds and hundreds of legal loopholes in the tax code for people to do real estate. So in the short term, we could be taking advantage of, tax breaks and deductions and appreciation and depreciation and so forth. Definitely builds wealth. So in the short term, get educated as to why it is important to own, and changing the mindset. A lot of times, the youngsters will say, "Hey, I don't know if I'm gonna get married or how long I'm gonna be in this city." If you make a good real estate decision, it really doesn't matter because that real estate is still an asset that's going to be there, even if you move across town or out of state. That is still an asset that's appreciating.
Plus, it's forced savings for the most part.
Thank you.
And you're locking in an asset today with today's dollars, and in the future, if you had an $800 mortgage today, 20 years from now, $800 is child's play. Protect yourself, hedge against the future by buying real estate today. So it's never a bad decision.
And let me make sure, just in case I thought I may have heard you say something about real estate and building wealth. Did you kind of say like you can look at it as a value of store like a bank?
Of course, yes.
For folks who may not know, help me understand how that works. Dwight.
Well, basically, you're putting money into an asset that's appreciating, that's going to be worth more. If you got money just sitting in a bank, it's only growing very little now because of all these great factors that we said now. But that house is appreciating historically at about 2.5 to 3.5% annually. Now, the last 24 months may have been 8 to 10%, but annually, if you look over 100 years, 200 years, just like the stock market, it historically always goes up. So it's going to appreciate. So you have something that you paid X that's now worth Y, and the difference is savings or equity.
And that appreciation is money that's going into you, building your wealth. That's money you didn't have to work for. That's not principal that you paid down. That's just money coming out of growth that you did not have to work for. No effort on your part whatsoever, other than you own this property.
Yeah. And if you partner with the right folks, we can actually use that equity to get more equity. I have a lot of, I think a lot of this conversation has been centered around people that don't own or never own, to get them to ownership. And that's very, very important in closing that gap. But there's also a big component for a lot of us, maybe on this call, that already own real estate, and we're just sitting there. We're not letting that real estate work for us. So this past year, opposite extreme of example, I have a gentleman that has a house, African-American couple that I know, house probably worth easily about $1 million. So they wanted to buy some property, some investment property. They wanted it to be in the name of the LLC. Through partnering with a good lender like Tirrell, they realized to buy it in the LLC, they're going to have to put more money down and have higher interest rates. So they took equity out of their own home, about $800,000 or so, and they bought 4 houses this year with their own equity and put them directly into the LLC, and they're paying probably 2% or less than that on utilizing their own equity in their own home to do it. So they were kind of their own bank, so to speak. So we have a lot of people in that space there that not closing the gap on real estate and land and development as a whole, because we just got a house and we're just sitting on it. We're sitting on hundreds of thousands of equity, and that's something to be proud. That's a major accomplishment, but you could make that equity be working for you as well.
Nothing like money working for you.
All right, Tirrell, I want to give you some time before we get out of here, because we're about 7 minutes.
So
I know you're ready. I know you're ready.
Go 100% away from real estate. Okay. You know, that's my love. That's what I want to do. I'm going to talk directly to my people, and definitely directly to their parents. Before I do that, I will say the number one thing you need to do is worry about your credit. Control your credit. Credit is a character reference. You'll be able to get more things for cheaper if you worry about your credit than if you neglect your credit. But I will say this. Quit forcing or thinking that the only way to win in our kids to win is college and different things like that. And when I say that is this, I do many loans, and I know Dwight knows this. I turn down many people that owe $100,000 for student loans that work jobs that they never need to go to college for. So that means they could have done 4 years of earning money instead of owing money. And at the end of them owing money, they owed $100,000 while they lost out on a job that they would have going to make, let's call it $40,000 a year. So you gave up $160,000 to owe $100,000, and you worked the same job. You have to you have to talk to your kids. You have to make sure they make the right decisions. At the end of the day, my wife is a CPA, and a CPA is a great profession. But at the end of the day, a CPA earns about the same amount of money as an electrician when you start out. So if somebody's good with their hands, allow them to be good with their hands. Don't force them to try to live life with their mind. There's way more ways to in this world. People, I've seen many jokes about, the plumbers come to your house, their butt hanging out. Everybody laughs at them. Plumbers make more than everybody if they're a master plumber.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never called a plumber over and asked him what I had to pay. I just said, fix it.
Yeah.
So, so if you're good with your hands, be good with your hands. Know what your passion is. Dive into it. If you're good at what you do, you're going to get paid for it.
Right.
So get out there and make that money and save money. Don't just spend it. Understand that there are way more ways in life to win than what, you see on TV. There's a lot more ways to win. Understand what your way to win is. Dig deep into it and believe in it and follow your passion.
Well, I don't know about you, Terrell, but my HVAC guy Charlie and his crew do my plumbing. Man, all those guys are 60 plus. They can't find young guys to go do this work. And
Yeah.
so I agree with you,
Unique.
man. And Charlie, you know, I mean, all of his guys, you say make over $100,000 a year doing this. But you're right, it's working with your hands. It's hard work, but take the time to be good at it, and you'll make even more of that as a master. You know, rather than just a
Electrician,
journeyman.
all
Yes.
that. Yeah, 100%. And you know, and it's so crazy that, and when you say that they can't find it, you know why? Because we get out of our school system. When we went to school, maybe you're a little bit younger than us, but when Tommy and I went to school, they had industrial arts, they had home ec, they had a lot of
I'm older
different
than you
things.
guys.
Trades.
Now, I mean,
Okay. Well, I heard something different earlier.
I'm just living well. That's all.
Okay,
You know.
hey, drink that water, baby. So
I
what
got
you know what we learned is we saw that was in our schools, and they tried to promote that, and they took it out of the schools.
They did.
And you know, but it's a needed thing, and you have to understand that at the end of the day, that you know when you're in high school, they want to recognize the valedictorian and the salutatorian. Guess what? There was a great person at ROTC. There's a great athlete. There's a great person that is good with their hands, horticulture, all kind of things. Celebrate who you are, be who you are, win at life, and help others win at life.
Good advice.
All right, folks. So we are right within about 5 minutes. And so this has been a great conversation. So we're going to close with a couple of things. Gentlemen, we're going to have both of you give a very short closing statement. We're going to wrap up some of the key things that you guys discussed this evening. And then we're going to go ahead and close out the show. So the action items or the thoughts that I took away from today's conversation, number one, obviously, is if you are a consumer, you will likely have very little in life. And so the key thing that I've heard from both of us saying is, number one, save, and save until you can invest. And then there's never a bad time to invest in real estate, because obviously it is consistently going to continue to grow in value throughout life. And it's one of those few things that, you know, never seems to, it's one of the few things that is very finite in nature. And so there's never a bad time to invest in real estate. Next thing we talked about is managing your credit score, because it literally is going to put money in your pocket, from what Tirrell said, in terms of what is going to cost you, whether that's getting a home, a car, or whatever the case is. And then understanding, it's something we didn't discuss directly, but I think all of us were kind of saying it in one way or another, is understanding the language of money and how that's going to navigate in life. And so if we can kind of write those things down, make that a part of our day-to-day thoughts and habits, then it's hard for us to lose. Gentlemen, each of you, if you could please make a closing comment, and if and when people need to contact you, how do they do so? We'll start out with you, Dwight, and then Tirrell. Tirrell.
Well, again, I'm openly grateful to have this platform and stuff like that. Continue to keep doing this good work in the DFW. My thing, I would say, one other thing that could help with closing the gap is to get more people that look like us in this real estate space, and property management, real estate, mortgage industry, because most of our clients,
and
the majority of our clients, and building and all the real estate arena, because the majority of our clients, whether we choose to or not, are going to look like us. So the more of us that are doing it, the more people we're going to bring along. So that's probably number one. Again, I'm serving you guys out of the Houston metro, but I do have referral partners in Dallas and all around the country. I have a really strong Black Realtor network, probably close to 5,000 people strong, that I could reach out and pre-vet someone anywhere. So if I could ever help you with real estate, buying, selling, or investing.
How do they catch up with you?
I'll drop my website in the link, but
Perfect.
The D1 Realty team, I'm powered by Keller Williams, Houston Preferred. My telephone number is 713-417-1789. It's 713-417-1789.
All right,
And that
Tirrell.
information will be in the description. We'll update it after the show. Put it in the description also.
All right, Tirrell. Closing comments, and how do they catch up with you?
Okay. Well, my closing comments are this: when you work with myself and you work with Dwight, and you follow a lot of the advices and some other advices, and you create this wealth for yourself, because I know you will do that. Do me a huge favor and go back and try to own your community. We're actually one of the few, we're the only race that doesn't own our community. We do need to have more Black owned businesses. Yes, sir. I need you to be an investor and believe in us, because we are great. And if you ever get bad service from a Black owned business, don't write them all off. Write that one off. You know, we get bad from another community and we still work with them. We get it from ourselves. We stop working with ourselves.
That's true.
There are going to be bad Black business owners. Just understand that, because they're bad everything. They're bad preachers. They're bad lawyers. They're bad judges. They're bad police. There's going to be bad everything. So if you would like to work with me, you can reach me at 214-924-1164. Once again, that's 214-924-1164. And lastly, I would just like to add, even if you're working with somebody else and you just want somebody to make sure it's a good deal for you, call me. I'm not going to try to take the deal from somebody, but I'm going to try to educate you and help your lender give you a better deal if you deserve it.
A free second opinion, guys. Listen to that. Make sure you take Brother Tirrell up on his offer.
All right,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you again, Jimmy. I will go ahead and let you close it out.
Tom, well, you breaking tradition here.
Oh, okay. Wait a second. All right, folks. At the end of every show, we do always, of course, close in a brief word of prayer. And understanding it's the top of the hour, we would ask everybody to close your eyes. Dear Lord and gracious Father, we come before you this evening, thanking you for blessing us to see another day. We thank you for our health. We thank you for our faculties, Father. We thank you for blessing us to see another year. Father, we ask that you would keep us focused on the things that you would have us to do. We thank you for bringing Tirrell and Dwight to our show this evening. We ask that you would bless their health, bless their families, bless their business this year, that they may continue to grow and prosper and help our communities, Father. We thank you for a blessing platform, that it may be of service to those who are within your domain, Father. We just thank you for continuing to inspire us to continue to do those things which are in your will and in your domain, Father. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
In Jesus'
Okay.
name we pray. Thank you, Jimmy, for keeping from being a heathen.
Well, like I said,
Save his soul. Save his soul.
I'm not saying something at the end of the show, but you brothers did such a wonderful job with the information. There was nothing else to be said.
Absolutely. And that's a lot to say with Jimmy. That's a lot to say.
Thank y'all for having us. Thank y'all for having us.
Thank you so very much.